Hey everybody, welcome back to SewGnar Sewing Patterns. It's been so long since I've uploaded a video. I hope that you guys are all staying healthy and safe out there amidst this global pandemic that we still are in. Today I'm going to be working on a teddy backpack. It is this beast of a bag that you see right here. It is a huge bag. The pattern calls for 12 pockets. I did 11 pockets and I did make a few modifications. I'll quickly go over them now. This front pocket, the pattern calls for a 3-bottle divider in here, and then you can also make this a thermal lined bag pocket so that it keeps the bottles cold or warm. I omitted that entirely. I just did the pocket, and I added some quilting to the side pockets and then to the bottom here, and I changed the strap connector piece and just a couple of other things here and there, but for the most part, I followed the pattern as it's written. I did sew it out of order as I normally do, so if you are following along, be aware that I switch all around throughout the pattern, but I go through everything as I'm making it with you guys. Let's see, so it's all cork on the outside, and then it's all cotton on the inside. It has 6 pockets inside. I omitted the back zipper pocket. I made one for my little sister back in February, and she told me that she uses that zipper pocket, but she never zips it, so I just thought, you know, with 11 other pockets to choose from, I'm just gonna let that one go. So, yep, omitted that, and then I omitted the front divider pocket, the thermal lined. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward. It does take a long time to make. I think I spent a total of 3.5 days. Not full days, but, you know, I would chunk it down to make it palatable, and yeah, so I'm really happy with how it turned out. This is a gift for one of my elementary school best friend's sister. She's about to have a baby, so I'm really excited to get this sent out. It's going to live its life in South Florida, so I hope that it enjoys that. Let's see, other than that, I hope that you enjoy the tutorial. Leave me a comment, like, share, be sure to pin or do whatever it is that you want to do with this video tutorial, and I'm so happy to be back. I hope that you guys are all well, and be sure to subscribe. Also, oh yeah, this is a 2-part video, so be sure to watch the second video. That's where I go over the tutorial. I show you how to make a wire frame so that you don't have to purchase it if you don't want to. It's super simple. I made them in less than 10 minutes. So yeah, enjoy. As you can see, the teddy backpack has a lot of pieces. This is everything all cut according to the pattern, except for a few changes here and there to make amendments for using cork. And the way that I've kept everything organized is I put little sticky notes and I wrote what each piece is. I have not done a final count on how many pieces there actually are to this, but as you can see, there are a lot. I would say at least 50, 60 pieces. So go ahead and cut out, interface, and let's get ready to sew. So on my bottom piece, normally I would use a piece of Peltex, but I'm out of Peltex. So what I've done is I've put fusible foam, and then I did 808 around it. And you can see that I did iron the 808 down, and I'm going to quilt this bottom piece. I think that it'll look really cool. I'm gonna use contrast thread, and yes, that's what I'm gonna do. So my first thing that I'm going to do is mark out my quilt lines. If you hear random noises, probably like that one in the background, don't mind them. We got a new puppy and he is a little bit rambunctious. Hey, Joppa. Speaking of rambunctious, he was just up on the windowsill. So I'm gonna make my quilt lines 1.5 inches apart, and I just picked 2 points on my cutting mat to start my lines, and there really wasn't any rhyme or reason to it. I just picked 2. And now I'm just gonna measure 1.5 up and down either side. So in order to mirror the same angle, I'm going to figure out where I started my first one, and I'm just going to do that on opposite sides. So there, so I have that line. There we go. So you can see I have all of my lines drawn out, and now I'm gonna, with beige thread, I'm going to stitch all of this. I am using a size 4 stitch length here, and then also I am using a Schmetz microtex size 14 needle. I just switched it out because this is going to be a big project, so I wanted a nice fresh needle on there. And so all I'm going to do is just stitch over all of the lines that I just made to quilt this down. And I'm going to go all in one direction first, and then I'll go back and do the other direction. Now it's all quilted, and you can see it kind of makes it puff up a little bit, which is pretty cool. It gives it kind of a, like a neat texture. And this is going to be the bottom of my bag. And so to get the chalk lines off, I'm just gonna take a damp rag and just wipe all of these lines. And then that'll get the chalk off, and then it'll just be my stitch lines. Throughout the video, you will notice that I'm not working straight through the pattern as it's written, as one knows. If you follow me, then you know that I kind of bebop around the patterns as I sew, and this video will be no different. So to get started on the front main panel, I'm going to go ahead and get this panel all settled and ready to go, and then I'll move on to the next panel, probably the back one. But anyway, so you'll see that my piece looks a little bit different. Normally it's one big piece as shown in the pattern. But what I did to save money on cork is I kind of just followed the curve of what's going to make the front pocket, the front curve pocket, and I cut a little over half as fabric, and then I also cut the top half in cork. This will be what is showing on the bag, and this is all going to be covered by the front pocket. So yeah, that just saves a decent amount of cork, which in turn saves a decent amount of money. If you want to do the same thing, you need to, on your pattern piece, I just kind of eyeballed it, but mine roughly translates to, I cut my cork from the top all the way down to 8 3/8 on the left side, and I curved it up to 10 1/4. So 8 3/8 to 10 1/4, and I did that on the curve. And then I cut my fabric up higher to have the seam allowance, and so that I started at 9 3/8 over here on the left side and curved it up to 11. So that's what these two pieces are here. You'll see just laid right next to each other. My two pieces are larger because I need, you can see right here, this is going to allow me to have the seam allowance gap. So what I'm going to do to piece these together is I'm going to find my center line on both the fabric portion and my cork. All right, so what I'm going to do is clip these together following the curve. I'm going to line up my two marks. And then this is going to get a little bit wonky, but you're just going to follow the curve and clip all the way around. If you want to, you can 100% skip this. I'm just a cheapskate, and I wanted to use the least amount of cork as possible. And also, this is a custom order, so this is going to save my customers some money as well. If you do this, you'll notice that there's a little bit of overhang right here on this little corner is going to overhang, which is fine. If I can get it to line up. Here we go. So you can see it lays kind of funky, but once it's stitched down, it's going to create one full big piece here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move to my machine, and I'm going to stitch using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. I'm going to stitch it with the fabric side up. No, I'm going to stitch the cork side up. This is only my second time making this bag, so we are going to figure it out together. So I'm just going to stitch and follow the curve. I'm not sure what happened, but the video cut off, but what I'm doing is I'm just stitching and I'm following the curve, and I'm using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. So now that that is all stitched, you'll notice this fabric just folds flat down, and I'm just going to finger press it, and then I'm going to top stitch this down just so that it doesn't move and it lays nice and flat. Thread came out. my front main panel is stitched together, I am going to add the front horizontal zipper. So on the wrong side, I'm going to mark the lines for my front zipper here. And I am not using zipper facings like the pattern calls for. So I am going to skip the first few steps on page 12. That's where this information is, page 12 of the pattern. And I am going to just draw the box straight onto my cork, and then I'm going to cut it out, and I'm going to inset the zipper behind it. So 4 1/4 down. Going to be here's my center line here. And because I'm using zipper by the yard, I'm going to make my zipper opening a 1/2 inch wide. Just trying to make sure that it's all straight so I don't have a wonky zipper. There we go. So now I'm going to cut this box out, and I'm going to use my rotary blade. You want to be very, very careful to not overcut this on the long or short edges, because this is the front of the pattern. So we're literally cutting a hole in the front. So you just want to be very, very careful when cutting this box out. There, so that is going to be our inset zipper hole. And what I'm going to do is burn the inside of it just to get any fuzzies off. And just straighten up the box. I went ahead and added my tag here before moving forward because I've been known to forget that and having to take stuff apart, and I do not want to do that to this bag. So, anywho, we have our zipper pocket ready to go. I went ahead and cut off 8 inches of my zipper by the yard, and then I have my 2 inside pocket pieces. One is larger than the other. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue my zipper by the yard with the right side up and wrong side down. I'm going to glue this centered onto the longer piece first. Glue the top to the longer piece. And then I'm going to glue the second piece. Well, it'll be like this. So I'll lay this second piece, the smaller piece, down, right side up, and then I'm going to flip the zipper so that the right side of the zipper, or so that the wrong side of the zipper, sorry, is up, and I'm going to glue that here. And then I'm going to just stitch those down. Or stitch everything all together. Ooh, no. Okay, there we go. Almost glued it to itself there. There we go. So I'm gonna let this set up for a second, but you can see it creates the zipper pocket. And I'm just gonna pop over to my machine and baste these layers together here. So I'll be right back. All right, so I got this basted down, and what I'm gonna do is add some glue around this zipper box here and lay it on top and centered, and then stitch this together. The cork is burnt a little from the lighter. That's what you're seeing here. So I'm gonna leave my zipper head on the left. And then lay this, center the zipper teeth in the box. All right, I'm just gonna let this set up, and then with the pocket hanging out of the top, I'm gonna stitch all the way around on this right side with the right side up. I'm gonna stitch 1/8 of an inch all the way around to lock in the zipper here. So I'm gonna go do that, and I'll be right back. Alrighty, so I got this all sewn down. And then I'm gonna turn this back around, and you'll notice that mine has a big overlap here on this side. And it's because I realized when I was sewing my zipper in that the zipper head was flipped and it was on the right side, and I wanted it to be on the left side. So I switched it, and that's just gonna cause me to forfeit about 1.5 inches of the pocket, which is fine by me. So I'd much rather have all of my zippers open from the left than have a bigger pocket, because this thing has tons of pockets. So I'm just gonna cut this excess off here. And then I'm gonna reclip it. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back to the machine, and I'm gonna sew this box together so that when you reach into the pocket, it's an actual pocket. And then, so you can see it top stitched the inside as well whenever I sewed my box around the zipper opening, which is nice. Made it have a nice clean edge in there. I don't usually top stitch my linings, but it just worked out that way. So, okay, I'm gonna pop over to the machine and sew this down. So, be right back again. Okay, I'm back. So the way that I did that, I thought that I would show you, was I laid this front panel right side up on my machine, and I folded this edge over, and I started sewing up here at the top right, and I sewed down and around the bottom, and then back up, which a little sloppily over here. But so I'm going to trim my excess here. There we go. And now we have our fully functioning horizontal pocket. Yay, fun. I love this line of Tula Pink. It's years old. It's Bumble. It's my favorite. Bumble and Sprout. I love this color. All right. All right, so now we are going to work on the front pocket bottom areas. So I went ahead and gathered both the outer and the lining. And then I have a zipper, my zip tabs, and the, what is this called? The front pocket top. And this is what's going to be curved around the top of this, and the zipper will be sandwiched in between, but I digress. So first off, I cut a length of zipper, roughly 11.5 inches, and then I, since I'm using cork zipper tabs, mine are 1.75 wide by 1.25 tall, and, well, I'm getting ahead of myself, so All right, let's see. So I need to put my zipper head on. See if I can do it correctly the first time. Now I have to take everything apart again. And when I cut my zipper, I always burn the edges just a little bit because it kind of melts them and helps with fraying. All right, so let's get this guy on here. Dokie. So the pattern says to start out with the zipper that is 14 inches long, but like I said before, mine is roughly 11 and a half. And then I cut my tabs to where whenever I lay them out evenly, the zipper is going to be 14 inches long. So that's what I'm gonna do now. I did go ahead and paint one short edge of my zipper tab, the part that's gonna be laid down on the zipper. I painted that with leather edge paint. But let's get these glued down. I'm just going to center this. There we go. There we go. I'm just going to let this glue set up, and then I will pop over to the machine and top stitch these down. Oh, can't see. Ta-da! Alrighty, so let's see, I stitched 1/8 and I just left that raw edge because like I said, I painted it with leather edge paint. But if you wanted to put these right sides together and have the fold here, well you would, never mind. Anyways, if you wanted to have the folded edge, I'll try to explain this again. If you want to have a folded edge here, then you need to extend the zipper tab length out to 2 inches and you would lay it right side down on the zipper and sew it and then flip it and top stitch. Sorry if that's confusing. If it is, then just do it this way. But anyway, so here's my zipper. And since alrighty, so I have my zipper all ready to go here. And then the next step is you take your front pocket top and we are going to glue or double stick tape it onto the top here of the zipper. But I wanted to leather edge paint this before I did that, and rather than do it off camera, I figured some of you probably haven't seen this in action, but this is what I'm using. It's by Giardini. It's, the light is, there we go. Giardini. This is Dense Edge Paint Black in color number 11. Usually it tells you to do a base coat first, but I'm just doing a really thin coat, so I'm just gonna skip that because I'm a rebel. So yeah. I figured you might want to see it. I know a lot of people have a lot of questions about this leather edge paint. I am by no means a pro in this arena. I just got it and play with it randomly. I don't put it on everything. Some things I don't even like the way that it looks on. But for these raw edges that are going to be exposed on a bag that's going to be so heavily used, I figured I might as well. So I kind of use the same method as when I'm gluing my edges. Just kind of paint it on there and then wipe off the excess. And so if you do it the right way and use the base coat, then what it does is it builds up a clear coat. You usually do 1 to 2 layers of the base coat, and it builds that up, builds a nice almost rounded edge up on whatever you're painting, and then you do whatever color, which they have tons of colors. Then you do whatever color you want on top of that built up edge, and it generally, as long as you apply it correctly, it leaves a nice, clean, crisp look. I definitely don't get the nice, clean, crisp look 100% of the time, which is why I still don't use it all the time. It's also a little bit pricey, but on certain projects, I do think it really ties it all together. It makes it look super professional. But it definitely adds time to the projects, and as you can see, it's a bit messy. I don't know if you can actually see that, but I just got it all over my cutting mat. So now I need to let this dry. I don't even know if you can really tell, but so just one quick coat, and it made, oops, it'll make that a nice clean edge. So I'm just gonna move this out of the way. And then the way that I clean it off of this is the applicator that you order to go with it, and it's just kind of this round, rolly thing. This little guy has indentions which hold the paint. But yeah, then I just wipe it off. And over time, it does get built up in these ridges, but I just take my X-Acto knife and I just kind of cut it all out and pull it out of the ridges. The other problem that I have with this is a lot of times it doesn't like to roll nicely, and so that causes applicator issues or application issues where it builds up in certain areas and not in others, and I don't know. So yeah, I'm just still working out the kinks of using this stuff, but on certain items it really ties the room together. All right, well, I'm gonna let this dry and then I will be back to go to the next step. Alrighty, that has dried enough. So now what I'm gonna do is apply glue on that edge that I edge painted. If my glue will come out. There we go. I've been learning how to skate on quad skates and falling a decent amount, and I fell the other day and my palms, I landed all my weight on my palms, and so they're kind of bruised. You can kind of see I have a nice bruise there, and so they hurt a little bit. It hurts to squeeze the glue. All right, so anyways, now I'm going to line up. I'm actually going to lay this out so that I can make sure that it lays straight. So I'm just going to lay this top piece and overlap it a 1/4 inch. All right, I'm gonna pop back over to the machine and then we're gonna top stitch this down. So the next step is I gathered both my lining and outer of my front pocket bottom piece, and I'm just going to fold these cut out squares and get those sewn. I'm going to do this on both the outer and the lining. Alrighty, now we need to finish this front zipper pocket. So I have my, this piece that I just did, the front pocket bottom. I'm going to trim up the seam allowances here. And I'm going to find the middle to make this next task easier. So 1, 2, 3. And do the same thing on this one. So of course my video cut off again. I don't know what happened there. But so now what I'm going to do is line up the mark on my zipper, my midline mark, and my midline mark on the cork outer piece. And I'm going to do these right sides together. And then I'm just going to clip all the way around, following the curve of the front pocket bottom. So you can see I have a little bit of overhang on both sides, but that's okay because it's even. I'm just not worried about that. Just gonna straighten this out a little bit more, and then on the wrong side of the zipper, I'm going to put the lining of the front pocket bottom. So we're just gonna go and stitch this all together. All right, so I'm gonna use a 1/4 inch seam allowance here. I'm not real sure what the pattern calls for. I don't have it open right now, but I generally sew with a 1/4 inch. If anything, it'll just make it a little bit taller. flip this right side out and just finger press it well. Here is the rough, oh, here we go, rough outline of what it's going to look like. If you wanted to, you could iron this to make sure that it lays nicely. I'm just going to clip it into place. I'm actually going to flip it so that I can sew on the cork side for top stitching here. Alright, I'm just going to top stitch about 1/8 of an inch from that top line, or from the seam, and hope that it catches the back. Alrighty, so I have this front pocket all ready to go now. I'm just going to trim the seam allowances on the lining down. And then, because I didn't baste it all together, what I'm going to do is just put a little bit of glue down to hold everything in place. To hold the lining piece, rather. Tuck these corners in nice together. Make sure everything's all flush. And then the pattern says to, well, I guess let me backtrack. Sorry about my dog playing with his dog toy. But I omitted the insole bright fleece on the lining because I'm not going to do the bottle pocket. I struggled with that last time, but that was just because I struggle with making elastic pockets, basically. But my little sister on her backpack, hey, she doesn't even actually use it, so I'm just going to omit it and use this, make this a regular pocket. But, so the pattern says to line, or make the mark using your pattern piece, follow the curve, but I think whenever I printed my pattern, I didn't have enough ink, so it didn't make that line. So I'm just going to use my front pocket backing piece here and just mark on my main panel where this pocket should lay. And I'm just going to use this as a rough guide. I'm not super married to it, but I'm mostly just going to follow where this pocket lays whenever I set it on here. But I figured it doesn't hurt to have a guide. All right, so the next step that we're going to do is take our front pocket and lay it on this curve here. But I just realized I need to edge coat this top piece because this is a raw edge here and I'm going to leave that raw. So I'm going to do that first. My little roller doesn't want to roll right now. This is kind of what I was talking about earlier. Sometimes this tool works, sometimes it doesn't. If you're interested in using this and getting somebody who has more experience with it, I suggest following Lynn's Handmade. She has a YouTube channel now, and she's another pattern designer. If you've never seen her stuff, highly recommend it. Super cute designs. She's the one who makes the Dana pack. You might be familiar with that. But she uses edge coat on a lot of things. Another person is Nova Clavy Design. If you've never followed her, I'd highly suggest her. She's on Instagram, but she uses edge coat too. Just making a mess now. Okay, so I'm going to let that dry before I lay it on my cork. I don't want it to leave a mark, so I will be back in a minute. All right, so my edge coat is dry. My Beacon Fabri-Tac on the inside is dry. And so what I'm going to do is lay this, oh, well, actually, let me find my centers first. That way, it's not all wonky. So I know that this is 14. This one is a little bit wonky. So I kind of need to trim this. So right now I'm just trying to make sure that my zipper box is what is guiding my cuts and my center lines, because otherwise the zipper will be crooked. And it looks like my top and bottom from sewing the cork to the fabric is a little bit off. So I'm just going to trim up this bottom piece here. There. So before you stitch this down, you want to make sure that your pocket is pulled up and out of the way. I'm just going to stitch 1/8 from the line, the top line of this curved piece. And once I get to the side, I'm just gonna sew all the way around to sew the pocket to the main panel here. trim these little ears off here. And then also I have a little bit of overhang from the fabric side, so I'm just gonna trim all of this up. Back in here and pop this back out so that it lays nicely, and then here we go. We have our completed front panel with the 2 zipper pockets. So I forgot that I still had to do the straps, or the handle connectors on the front of my bag. So gone ahead and I did my edge coat on the edges of my strap anchors, and now I'm going to install those. And so my strap cover isn't as large as the one in the pattern because I am going to just leave mine raw edges. So it's 6 inches wide by 2 inches tall. And I'm gonna have on the back side, this goes on the back main panel, but on the back main panel, it's gonna cover up the top of my strap anchors. So I want to have them in the same placement on the front and the back so that it's not a weird bag. And so what I've done is measured down using the measurements provided in the pattern. And instead of putting them at the end of my 6 inches, I'm gonna bring them in 1/4 inch on either side. So I'm gonna mark my lines here. Okay, 1/4 inch. There we go, okay. And then I'm going to take an X-Acto knife and cut that out right there. And so my strap handles are going to be, or my strap connectors are going to be different than in the pattern. So you can see where mine are gonna go. I'm gonna do mine recessed, which is not how the pattern calls, but alas, that's how I'm gonna do it. So right sides together on the strap anchor, I'm gonna slide it down into the hole that I just made. And I'm going to pull it down on the back so that there's about 3/4 of an inch. And then I'm going to slide the second one in. And now what I'm going to do is pop over to my machine, and I'm going to stitch just above this line here, just above this cut. So here's the opening, and I'm going to stitch just above, 1/8 of an inch above on both of these strap anchors. I hope if my needle was threaded. There we go. Trim down my threads here. Then I'm just going to grab my hardware. And so what you're going to do is slide your hardware. Kitty, move. Sorry about that. I'm going to just slide my hardware onto the strap like so. And then I'm gonna take this excess and push it back down through this hole here. On the front side. And then when you flip it to the back, you can see it's starting to come up back here, and I'm just gonna pull it. Make sure that it's nice and tight. And you can see there's the recessed strap anchor. And then I'm gonna rivet this into place. So again, I'm gonna pull this up, place my hardware on the strap, and then slide it into the hole. There we go. Now I'm just going to add rivets to these, and they will now have my recessed strap anchors. So now before I add my rivet placements, I'm going to just be sure I'm going to go back in from the back and pull down on the not sewn down part of the strap anchor. And you can see I've got a lot of excess here, which is fine by me. And when I rivet this into place, it's going to catch on the back side of this strap anchor. So making sure that this is pulled nice and taut and that everything lays nicely, I'm going to mark my holes here for my rivets. Use my radial punch and punch these holes out. Make sure that these lay nicely, so I'm going to stick one layer of Peltex on the back and just mimic this whole placement here. It'll be easier to do it on this. And this will just be for added security, and then also it'll provide an extra layer of fabric or just whatever. Obviously it's interfacing, but it'll add an extra layer, so it'll make sure that my rivets, whenever I rivet everything all together, that they lay nicely and they don't shift. Oh my goodness. die set for the bigger die. There we go. Now we have recessed strap anchors. All right, so now moving on, since we are done with the front panel, I'm going to work on my side panels. And all that I need to do for these is, oh, never mind. I thought that was interfacing hanging off the edge, but it's not. So I'm gonna take my outer and my liner and clip them together at the top. This is going to be the side pockets. I don't know if I already said that. And these are slip pockets. They'll be on the outside. All right, so now I just need to pop over to the machine and I'm going to stitch across the top. So I'm going to use a 1/4 inch seam allowance here. Just stitch across the top. And then I'm just going to finger press these well and flip it so that they are wrong sides together, and then top stitch using 1/8 seam allowance. So I just had a thought while I was sewing these that it would be cool to mimic the same stitch design on these. So I'm going to go ahead and mark out my quilt lines here, and I'm going to do that. I think that'll look really cool. All right, so to finish off these side panels, I have the actual side panel, and then I have my pockets here. The pattern is a little different than what I'm doing, but I'm going to put my pockets, move it. I'm going to put my pockets at 1.75, which is a little different from the pattern. But so I'm going to just align my bottom edge on the 1.75 line, and then I'm going to clip it into place. Same for the other one. So I went ahead and I edge painted the bottom too. This one has fabric very close to the bottom, but the edge paint worked on that too, surprisingly. All right, so I'm just gonna pop to the machine and I'm gonna sew down the sides, across the bottom, and back up on both of these. Alright, so we've got these all done. Cute little pockets. I think the best part is that it is going to match the bottom here, which I will go ahead and do that now since I'm here. But I'm going to take my quilted bottom piece and attach it to the edge closest to the bottom of the pocket to create the backpack gusset. Alright, so I'm going to go back to the machine and stitch this. So I used a 1/4 inch seam allowance right there, and I'm going to flip it flip it up toward the pocket, the seam allowance, both sides, and finger press it, and then I'm going to top stitch this seam. I pulled my thread out. So I'm top stitching 1/8 of an inch from the seam. I'm going to grab the other side and do the same thing. So right sides together, clip, and stitch. Finger press well, and then top stitch. Ta-da! All this quilty goodness. All right, so now we are going to work on the back main piece, and it's just one full piece of cork right now. The first thing I'm going to do is cut out the box for my zipper, and so I'm going to use the measurements from the pattern. Again, I'm not doing a zipper facing, so I'm taking that into account when I draw the box. So needs to be 2 inches from the top. So I'm going to start here. Bad boy cut out. Burn around all the edges. So the person that I'm making this bag for is right-handed. So I put this vertical zipper on the right-hand side. So when the bag is being worn against your back, you can reach around the back and just unzip it if you need to with your right hand. But if you are left-handed or making it for a lefty, you might want to consider putting the zipper on the left side. It looks like it's on the left side now, but when it's being worn, it's going to be this way. So there. All right, so I'm going to cut a length of zipper. Do purple. Cut it at 13 inches. Get my zipper head put on here. And then now I have my liner for the pocket. And what I'm going to do is the same thing that I did with the front zipper. So I'm going to create the sandwich here by gluing my zipper in. I'm going to do right side of the fabric to the wrong side of the zipper. So I'm just going to glue this in, and then I will sew it. So I want my zipper head to start at the top, so I'm going to be sure that it unzips top down. And then I'm going to take the other side of the fabric and glue it to the other side of the zipper. And if you noticed, I only put interfacing on half of the zipper pocket. I feel like that will provide enough structure, especially with the cork and then the lining. I think that that'll keep it nice and straight when it's inset into the cork. All right, so I'm gonna let this glue set up, and then I'm gonna go over and using a 1/4 inch seam allowance, I'm gonna sew down both sides of my zipper teeth. There we go. I've got my zipper pocket All right, so we've got the zipper all sewn in now. And what I'm gonna do is flip it back over, and I peeled the glue that was here. I peeled it up so that this back piece would lay nicer. And then I'm just gonna clip it, and we need to go back and sew the two fabric pieces together to create the pocket. Get this pocket done. All right, so to do this, I'm going to, with the right side up, I'm gonna pull back to reveal, dun dun dun, the pocket pieces, and I'm just gonna start sewing right here. I'm gonna sew over my zipper teeth and down and all the way around to enclose this pocket. You can see I stitched all the way around. All right, so now I just need to trim this excess. And one giant back zipper pocket is all ready to go. And just by chance, because I was not paying attention to it, I happened to lay my print the right way, which is awesome, because that would have sucked if I put it in upside down. So in order to finish this back area, we need to do the straps, the backpack straps that go over your shoulder, and then we will be putting the strap anchors and the straps underneath this strap cover. So in order to do the straps, I am doing mine a little bit differently. The pattern calls for a strap connector and it angles it down. It's kind of, I tried to do it in the last bag that I made, and it was just kind of it didn't really work for cork because it just got too thick with flipping and everything else. So the amendments that I made, this is going to be the main strap, and this is the accent piece, and you can see that, oh, no you can't. You can see that I made my accent pieces longer because what I'm gonna do is it's going to go on top, and then it's gonna go through the O-ring and loop underneath, and then I'm gonna rivet it, and then that's gonna create the strap connector there. So, a little bit different. So I made my straps 13.5 for the main by 16 for the accent. I'm gonna fold my main in half here. And then I'm gonna center, ooh, the accent piece is too big. Need to trim these down. Oh yeah. So they're actually by 1.25, 16 by 1.25. Change my note over here. Okay. I'm just going to lay this right on top and center it. And you can see it has this excess, and that's what's going to come up and loop. Grab my O-rings real quick. I can't remember if I stitched these last time or if I just riveted them. I think I want to stitch them. And then that'll create the strap. Or the strap anchor, rather. Let's see if I catch it. Nope, of course not. I'm actually going to put a little bit of glue on here so that this doesn't move. And so I pulled my accent strap, my accent piece, sorry, my phone's being weird. I pulled my accent piece up to where it overlaps on the back side at 1.5 inches from the bottom of the main piece. Ow, oh, buggers are tight. All right, so I'm just gonna move over my machine and top stitch down the accent across the bottom and then back up. So I'm going to stitch 1/8 of an inch down on the inside of the accent color, so on the inside of my green. Alrighty, so I have my straps done over here, and before I move on, actually, I need to put some rivets in. I'm just gonna mark from back here. I'm gonna do 4 rivets on this side. Stitching's a little wonky, but shh, just don't tell anybody. They're the same size. All right, I'm gonna use the bigger ones. Oh my gosh. awesome. Okie dokie. So now I'm going to figure out where my strap cover goes, if I can find it. Isn't that something? Oh, there it is. All right, so I am going to put my strap cover where the pattern tells me. So let's see. I went ahead and marked my center a few minutes ago just so you didn't have to watch that unbearable process. So this is where my strap holder is going to go, but this is going to go on top of my straps. So what I need to do first is I need to lay my straps out. So my straps will go, let's see, let me make a little mark here. I'm going to put them down that far. So I'm going to lay them right next to each other, right sides together. Oh, I'm going to use double stick tape for this. We're joined by Salvador. We don't get to see him very often. Hi, Sal. When he's in here, he usually hangs out in the box that my cork comes in. He doesn't usually get up on the table, so must be bored. Oh, shoot. I put that on the wrong side. And then I'm going to go to my machine and just throw a couple stitches in here just to hold these in place. All right, I don't know if you can, let's see. So I just put one stitch line across just to hold those in place. Make sure that when you're sewing, you pull your pocket out from the sides so that you don't sew through that. That would be not good. And so next, before I put the strap thingy on here, I need to do my strap holders. Or my, what are they called? Recessed straps. Let's see, so you're sitting things. So, let's go 2.5 down. That's the center. No. Seam straight. All right. Just gonna go straight in and make my cuts for my anchors here. So just like before, feed it through, right sides together. And then just like before, I'm gonna go and put my stitches just above this cut. So I'm gonna sew just above this cut line here. All right, so I have my strap anchors sewn down. You see I did it right above the cut, the opening here. And so I need to put my hardware on. So slide it on, tuck it inside that opening. And now because I need to sew this on, I am going to put a little dab of glue on here because I can't rivet it just yet. I'm going to rivet it through the strap holder thingamajigger. So I'm just going to put some glue here so that these don't move while I'm sewing that on. So now I need to glue this down in place. I'm just going to butt it right up to where those openings were for my strap anchors. And then you'll see it covers the ends of my straps here. I'm actually going to use a little bit more of this. So the video cut off before, but all I did was stick down the strap cover here, and now I'm just going to sew all the way around it, 1/8 of an inch from the edge of the green. All right, so now that I have this all completed, I'm going to add my rivets. This is for the extra security aspect. So what I like to do is on this template, there's these dashes, and so I line that dash up with my stitch line, that first dash. And then I punch the second hole. So I do 1 in the 1 inch, and then I do 2 in my 1.5 inch. All right, so the next thing that we need to do is make our strap ends. And so what this is gonna do is, these are gonna come up through here and connect on the side over here. So we need to make these connectors. And so I'm using pre-folded 1-inch cork straps for this. And I changed the strap end connector. So the pattern piece, you can see it's the triangle, but in order to make it work for cork without flipping it, I just folded it in half and flipped it. And so what I'm going to do is situate, let's see, 1 inch down of one on one short end here, centered, of course. Let's see, maybe I should do that first. All right, so 1 inch, and then I'm just going to glue these sides together. And I'm just going to align all of the edges. There we go, and clip it into place. There we go. So now the next step is to go back to the machine, and we are going to stitch up the short edge across and back down. All right, now I'm just going to trim, like I've got a little bit of excess right here. So I'm just gonna trim everything up and then paint the sides with edge coat. Okay, so my leather edge paint is now dry, and you can see how it gives it a really nice finish. And so I need to attach them to my backpack back. Measure up 1.5 inches. And then align your side seams here. So now I'm just going to pop to the machine and baste those into place. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up the backpack straps while I'm here. The pattern has you do that at the very last step, but I figured it'll be easier during assembly if everything is attached, meaning these two, and then I won't lose them or sew through them or anything like that. So because this end of the strap is already in here, you put your hardware on a little bit differently. It's a little bit wonky, but we get there in the end. So first I'm gonna mark a rivet hole. Do 2. I'm doing pre-punching this side first because once it's threaded, it's going to be kind of tight inside the hardware. All right, so doing this backwards, but we are going to take one end of, or the open end of the strap, go from this side over the center bar. You're gonna loop it through the O-ring, and then you come to the bottom of the bar. Well, here, so you have to give yourself some slack because we're gonna thread underneath the bar this time. So on the back side, thread underneath, and then back over the middle bar. And I have about 1 inch of overhang here. You can tell, it's kind of hard to see, but 1 inch overlap. I'll clip this and then use the holes that I just punched as my guide for the other side. So we ended up with a traditional fold here, but you just have to go about it backwards. Yeah, so if you give yourself some slack here, and then whenever you're trying to thread through, give yourself slack here. It makes it much easier. And do the other side. Make sure that your straps aren't twisted too when you're doing this. Alright, so hardware, up and over. Oops. Loop through the O-ring. Give yourself some slack. And then back over that center bar. I'm not gonna lie, this took me quite a few minutes to figure out. Could not wrap my mind around it. But I think that also means that I'm ready to take a break. I don't know about you guys, but I get super mush brain if I just sit in the studio for too long. So there we have it. And then just to kind of keep everything out of the way, I'm just gonna tighten them up as tight as they'll go. And there we go. Now the back is done. All right, guys, so we've made it through video 1. Be sure to click through to video 2, and we will finish the assembly of the outside, and then, hi Sal, make the lining, the cotton lining, and then inset and finish the bag. Yeah, be sure to subscribe so that you can follow along to my next video tutorials, and remember to leave me a comment, click the thumbs up button, share the video, pin it, do whatever. Any sort of outreach is much appreciated, and it helps me get my name out there, so I appreciate it. Yeah, so I hope that you're having fun making this teddy backpack along with me, and I will see you next time.